Good morning, everyone. Let's try that again. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, everyone who's here in person and everyone who's joined us online, and welcome to the first 2024 convening of the Elder Justice Coordinating Council. I'm Allison Barkoff, and I lead the Administration for Community Living, and I'm so proud to serve as the delegated chair of the council, standing in for my boss, Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra, who's our chair. And Secretary Becerra sends his regrets as his schedule required travel today, but I am so excited to stand in for him today for this really important convening. Really excited that this is our first in-person meeting since 2019. And being here a few minutes early, seeing the connections between people, this is so amazing. And secondly, we are really marking an incredible moment in time. We have a great schedule put together, looking at how we started EJCC a little more than a decade ago, what we've achieved in our 10 years, and importantly, the work we have looking forward. As my first duty, it is a tremendous and distinct pleasure and privilege to welcome the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland. We're delighted to have him join us this morning to open our Elder Justice Coordinating Council as our meeting host. Attorney General Garland, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Allison. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to this convening of the Elder Justice Coordinating Council. I'm particularly happy to welcome the Council for the first time to the Department of Justice. Since some of you are new to the building, I want to talk a little bit about this space. The building was dedicated 90 years ago in 1934 with President Roosevelt in attendance. During the Clinton and Bush administration, it underwent a massive renovation, but the architects went to great lengths to ensure that the building, including this great hall, retained its historic integrity. In 2001, it was rededicated and renamed the Robert F. Kennedy Building. There's a bust of the former Attorney General on the stage. In this hall, we are surrounded by, of all things, teller windows, or I should say former teller windows. Decades ago, this is where Justice Department attorneys went to get their pay in cash. Before you ask, that was long before my time. But times have changed, and the department has changed along with them. As this group well knows, elder justice is another area that has required us to adapt. When the Elder Justice Coordinating Council had its inaugural meeting more than 10 years ago, we could not have known of the environment we would be operating in 10 years later. Back then, artificial intelligence, that was just sci-fi. Now it's shaping some of the greatest opportunities, but also the greatest risks for elder Americans. Fortunately, our agencies have the wisdom to anticipate that no matter what the future held, our best tactic for combating elder abuse would be working together. And that is just what the Elder Justice Coordinating Council has ensured. Every year, millions of older adults experience some form of elder abuse, neglect, financial exploitation, or fraud. We know that the vast majority of elder abuse cases go unreported, and that too many victims remain unseen. That is why the department has aggressively targeted perpetrators of elder fraud and abuse while providing victims with the support they need. In the last 5 years, the Justice Department has pursued more than 1,500 criminal and civil cases involving conduct that targeted or disproportionately affected older adults. We have provided services to more than 1.5 million older victims, and we have returned hundreds of millions of dollars to elder fraud victims. The Elder Justice Coordinating Council has played a key role in that work. Today, the Council is a critical vehicle for information sharing and coordination among the federal agencies in their efforts to address elder abuse and fraud. This has not only enabled us to stay informed of important developments in the field, it has also enabled our agencies to support and amplify each other's work. In recent years, the Council has enhanced the reach of the Justice Department's mass mailing fraud prevention initiative, as well as the Social Security Administration's Slam the Scam Day awareness campaign. This February, the Justice Department, with the support of the Council, held the inaugural National Elder Justice Law Enforcement Summit. This event brought together local, state, and federal law enforcement to help foster collaboration, both among departments with elder justice professionals and with elder justice professionals. We know these partnerships make a huge difference in combating despicable crimes against older Americans. The Coordinating Council has also become an important tool for coordinating with the people we serve. The Council has raised public awareness of a wide variety of issues, including novel elder fraud schemes and promising research on elder abuse. Threats to elder justice are constantly evolving. Our partnerships have never been more important. As we confront the expansion of transnational fraud schemes and the rapid advancement of AI, we must work together to make sure that older Americans can live their lives safely and with dignity. I am confident that this Council will continue to meet the challenges and advance the cause of elder justice, just as it has done for more than 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Attorney General Garland, and thank you to everyone here at the Department of Justice for hosting us in the Great Hall. It truly adds gravitas to the work that we're doing together, the important work that we all bring to the table together, and it is a really grand way to celebrate a decade of incredibly hard work. I hope that everyone here in the room and everyone who's joining us online can really get a feel of the atmosphere. I think there is a real optimism and commitment, and I'm really looking forward to the next several hours together. As I look across the table here, across all the departments and the agencies in this administration, you can feel the real urgency around the issues that matter to older adults. I personally see this every day when I come into work at the Administration for Community Living and in the actions of each of our agencies, all 16 that are represented here today, including, of course, Attorney General Garland's Department of Justice. And as you'll hear today, efforts to advance elder justice have both a significant history with incredible champions, with many of those who we will be hearing from and honoring today. But I really want to give a push to all of us because we are at an incredible moment in time. We have the wind behind our back with an administration that has made this a priority, with the visibility of our issues, and we have an incredible opportunity to both build off the legacy that we will honor today, but extend our gains to reach hard and go well beyond what was imaginable when the Council was formed more than a decade ago. Before we proceed to the program, I want to carry out one of my important duties as the delegated chair, which is welcoming each of the Council members and delegates to this meeting. And again, I want to thank you for being here today, both my colleagues from across the federal government and the people in this room. And I really want to say that each of you are here today because of our common goal and our common shared value of ending elder abuse and neglect. And I want to acknowledge that that is a heavy responsibility for each of us as council members to fulfill our purpose of advancing the cause of elder justice, because it is an unfortunate truth that our society does not always provide the opportunities it should for everyone to stay fully engaged and connected to their communities throughout their life. And this disconnection leaves people who are our family members, our neighbors, our community, at increased risk of experiencing maltreatment. But together, we can work as change agents. The council meetings and all of the important work that happens in between really highlight our all-of-government approach, a use every tool in our toolbox kind of approach to advancing elder justice. And I can say, as someone who joined the Biden-Harris administration on day one, elder justice has been a priority. At this point in time, it's right to pause, to celebrate the incredible vision from a little more than 10 years ago, to feel good about our accomplishments, and then to seize the moment, to really think about what our next 10 years can and should look like, and to be strategic and think about how we seize the momentum to achieve even more. I know we won't be able to get through all of that in one meeting, but in the coming weeks and the coming months, as we chart our course forward, I really encourage everyone on this council to think big and bold. So now I have the pleasure of giving every coordinating council member 1 minute, seriously guys, 1 minute, to introduce yourselves, and as we go around, to please share your name, title, and very briefly share 1 or 2 initiatives that you oversee or a quick recap of a recent accomplishment. And I'll take the privilege of starting first for HHS and mention ACL's Office of Elder Justice and Protective Services. This office not only helps coordinate this council, but we also oversee federal adult protective services efforts nationwide and work on a variety of elder justice initiatives. I am so proud to be the federal home for adult protective services, and we just did something really big. We put out the first ever federal regulations for adult protective services programs, and you'll be hearing more about that from our colleagues at ACL later this morning. So next, as host, I would like to call on our host, the Department of Justice representative. So, Andy. And you may need to turn on your microphone so everyone can hear you. Yeah, folks can turn back around if they'd like.
Good morning. My name is Andy Mao. I'm the Department of Justice's Elder Justice Coordinator. It's a privilege to be here. I'll be talking a little bit more later, so I'll cede my time, but it's really a pleasure to see so many friends and advocates that we've worked with through the years. Thank you.
Great, and next I'll call on the United States Department of Labor.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Gomez, and I am very proud and honored to serve as the Assistant Secretary for Employee Benefits and the head of the Employee Benefits Security Administration at DOL. And one recent accomplishment that we had at EBSA that relates to elder justice as well as retirement investors generally is the issuance of our retirement security rule, which states that all retirement investors should, when they're seeking advice from a financial professional about how to invest their retirement savings, should be able to get advice that is in their best interest and not the interest of the financial advisor. So we're very proud of that, and I'm very happy to be here today with all of you.
Thank you. And next, U.S. Postal Inspection Service.
Good morning. As she said, my name is Gary Barksdale, and I'm the Chief Postal Inspector for the United States Postal Inspection Service. Certainly very proud and feel privileged to serve as a part of this council. Proud of the work that inspectors are doing around the country, primarily in two areas we support this initiative. One is on the enforcement side. We have our Department of Justice-led Transnational Elder Fraud Strike Force team. But at the time of arrest, we failed our elderly. So our second big initiative really is the work we're doing on the fraud prevention side. So in the interest of time, I'll just encourage you to visit our website, uspis.gov, for some really good public service announcements for our elders. Thank you.
Thank you. Securities and Exchange Commission.
Great. Good morning. I'm Lori Schock. I'm the Director of the Office of Investor Education and Advocacy at the Securities and Exchange Commission. I just wanted to highlight a couple of the initiatives that the SEC has undertaken since becoming a member of this esteemed council. One of the biggest accomplishments during this time period has been the Trusted Contact Rule, which allows firms to have individuals add a trusted contact to their account before they run into an issue, and it gets beyond some of the privacy issues that firms had. Also, there's an ability to delay transactions if there's suspected elder abuse or financial fraud here. And those are big initiatives for us. And from the investor education perspective, we do an annual public service campaign. And last year's campaign focused on older Americans as investors, and this year's campaign, which will launch next week, continues that as a multi-generational campaign to get the whole family involved. As we all know, we can't do it alone. We need everybody helping in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Federal Trade Commission.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lois Greisman. I have the honor of serving as the FTC's Elder Justice Coordinator. I also oversee a lot of law enforcement initiatives where we see older adults disproportionately impacted by scams. One example is a recent law enforcement action in which we secured $18.5 million against Publishers Clearinghouse, alleging that it misrepresented that you had to make a purchase in order to secure the prize. We also at the FTC do an annual report on fraud affecting older adults, and that encapsulates our law enforcement work, our public outreach and educational initiatives, and also provides in-depth data analysis of how fraud impacts older adults based upon the millions of consumer reports we receive every year. Thank you.
Thank you. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Good morning. I am Lynn Grasso. I am the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Fair Housing Enforcement at the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. I'm very pleased to be here. We at HUD know how important affordable housing and accessible housing is for our seniors. And we have recently issued first of its kind guidance addressing the use of AI and algorithms in how tenant screening is done. And we know very often tenant screening can be very impactful on how seniors can access affordable, accessible housing. So feel free to access that guidance on our website. We think it's very relevant to this important population. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Department of Veteran Affairs.
Good morning. My name is Garrison Petroviak. I am proxy for Dr. Elijah Carter, the Executive Director for Pension and Fiduciary Service, which is the office representing the Department of Veteran Affairs for the Honorable Dennis McDonough. My office is responsible for managing pension, survivors, and fiduciary services, which are inclusive of the elderly population. Our program not only pays benefits and provides services, but also provides oversight for the vulnerable population.
Thank you. Legal Services Corporation.
Thank you. I'm Ron Flagg, President of LSC. We are the nation's biggest funder of civil legal aid. We fund 131 programs operating over 900 offices throughout the country. In 2023, our grantees served over 2 million people. Roughly 200,000 of those were older adults. The one initiative I'd like to highlight is a 4-part training series we co-sponsored with the Administration for Community Living that was hosted by the National Center for Elder Rights on closing the justice gap for older adults. It was a very popular series. Over 1,000 people attended remotely each of the 4 training sessions, which covered things like nursing facility evictions, partnering with protective services, and representing clients of varying capacities. And we're in the process of planning our next training series with ACL, and we're looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Social Security Administration.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ben Belton, Senior Advisor to the Commissioner of the U.S. Social Security Administration. I'm going to cede my time because I'm going to be speaking later, but just want to say good morning and thank you so much for all that you do.
Great. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Deborah Royster. I'm Assistant Director of the Office for Older Americans at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It is my honor to be here today and to serve as Director Rohit Chopra's designee for this 10th anniversary EJCC meeting. The Dodd-Frank Act created the Office for Older Americans with the aim of protection from unfair, deceptive, and abusive practices related to older adults' financial choices. So the work of the EJCC fits squarely within our mission. In the interest of time, I will focus on one of our key initiatives. Our office has several initiatives that are focused on combating elder fraud. One of our most important initiatives is our fraud prevention work. We continue to monitor financial institutions to make sure they are doing their part to combat elder financial exploitation, using tools like suspicious activities reports, trusted contacts, and transaction holes. In addition, in collaboration with the FDIC, we have created the Money Smart for Older Adults Awareness, Scam Awareness Prevention Program, which is used to train bank staff and older adults how to identify and respond to scams. Finally, through our CFPB Elder Fraud Prevention and Response Networks, we bring together professionals throughout the country to collaborate to protect older adults from financial exploitation. We're very excited to work with our federal partners who are here today to expand on these efforts. We've enjoyed working with you for the last, 10 years, and we look forward to continuing to work together on this important issue in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. AmeriCorps.
Thank you. My name is Robin Corindo, and I am the Deputy Director of AmeriCorps Seniors. I'm standing in for Italia Sergi, our National Director, who is traveling today and represents AmeriCorps on the Council. AmeriCorps Seniors is a grant-making office in AmeriCorps that supports communities to engage older adults, 55 and older, in volunteerism and national service. We support our volunteers in both being aware and training them on issues of elder justice and providing them services in their community to support elder justice initiatives, such as the Ombudsman Program, educating older adults and others on scams and fraud to avoid financial exploitation, supporting the Attorney General's offices in investigation of scams, and reporting abuse, to name a few. I look forward to the conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you. Federal Communications Commission.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kayla Hernandez Ulloa. I'm with the Federal Communications Commission in the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau. Thank you for having me here today. I'm really honored to be here, continuing working with all of you here. I'll be very brief on my remarks. The Federal Communication Commission is, for those of you that are not familiar with us, a regulatory agency. We regulate all to do with telecom. But in the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau, we do look out for our consumers. We have a lot of things that we are doing, but I just wanted to list a few of them. With regards to older adults, we do continue to encourage everyone to ask us for our information about robocall scams and unwanted texts and calls. That's a really big issue right now. We like to remind consumers that we have also updated our information for 211, which is the local line for health, where a lot of consumers access health services. And we also like to remind everyone that we do have information that is available for request on not only these, but all of our other issues. Anyone that is interested in finding where the consumer focused information is on can look on our online consumer help center. We do have a consumer complaints center which can be reached via consumercomplaints.fcc.gov. But for those consumers that still do not have access to the internet, we also have our toll-free number, 888-225-5322. I look forward to hearing from everyone today about everything that they're doing to help older adults. And again, thank you for having the FCC here today.
Thank you. Department of Homeland Security.
Good morning. My name is Amanda Smith, and I am the Acting Director of FEMA's Individual and Community Preparedness Division within the Department of Homeland Security. My office works to empower people and their communities to know and act on their risk for all hazards before, during, and after disasters. One of the longstanding programs that we have is the Emergency Financial First Aid Toolkit, which helps all Americans, including older Americans, organize their financial, medical, and home information before disaster happens to help increase and speed up their recovery and reduce the chances that they will be abused and financially exploited. One recent initiative that FEMA has undertaken is a partnership with the Rosalind Carter Institute. In February, we released with them a disaster preparedness guide for caregivers. This is a first of its kind guide to help caregivers prepare for disasters and protect their loved ones. I look forward to today's conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Department of Agriculture. Oh, okay. Do we have anyone from Ag here? Okay, Department of Treasury.
Good morning.
My note said you were going to be late. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Good morning. My name is Natalia Lee. I'm the Director in the Office of Consumer Policy at the Treasury Department. Within the Treasury, consumer policy plays a really important part. Mostly, we produce policy analysis on developments in financial services that impact consumers and coordinate and manage the Financial Literacy and Education Commission. The Financial Literacy and Education Commission is an interagency body chaired by the Secretary of the Treasury and dedicated to advancing financial well-being through education and literacy. The Office of Consumer Policy currently serves as Treasury's designee for the Federal Trade Commission Advisory Group established in September 2022 pursuant to the Frauds and Scams Reduction Act to better identify and help prevent frauds and scams targeting older adults. Importantly, this advisory group recently produced a user-friendly, streamlined reference sheet outlining messages and outreach best practices that could be used by all stakeholders in their communications efforts around fraud prevention for older adults. During our upcoming Financial Literacy and Education Commission meeting on July 10th, the colleagues from the Federal Trade Commission will discuss this document in more detail and the work that has gone in to produce it. I encourage you all to tune in. It's a public meeting. Thank you for including Treasury in this important work. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you to each of the coordinating council members and delegates, and truly, every time we gather, and I've had the privilege, I think this might be maybe my 6th or 7th meeting with you all. It's great that you're not little boxes on screens. I'm just so impressed at what each agency is doing and the incredible commitment. So, we're not having just a regular meeting today. We are actually celebrating today. And so the agenda has really been developed with that in mind. We'll start by taking a moment to reflect on where we've come from. And I am so excited for our upcoming panel. And what would an in-person meeting be without a few fireside chats? And then we'll talk about really what we have achieved. And then, of course, a big piece is for us to look forward. And we're maybe going to be a little fuzzy on our math here. We're calling this the 10-year anniversary, but we're really building from the inauguration of the Elder Justice Coordinating Council in June 2012 at the White House. So we're celebrating our first decade-ish and thinking about our next decade going forward. So I want to now turn to a discussion that I could not be more excited about. And I'd like to call Kathy to come on up. As part of our retrospective look on the work of the Council, we are truly honored to have with us today an incredible elder justice champion and staunch advocate former Assistant Secretary for Aging, Kathy Greenlee, and I'd invite you to come take a chair. Kathy participated in conversations nationally, at the White House, and with Congress throughout her tenure as Assistant Secretary. And most importantly for us today, Kathy was pivotal in the early conversations regarding elder justice and this council, and served as the first chair of this council. Kind of big shoes to fill standing up here, Kathy. Kathy has just an incredible deep understanding of aging issues from her time in federal service and her 18+ years in Kansas state government, where she served in many high-level positions, including as Secretary of Aging under then Kathleen Sebelius. Today, Kathy serves as chair of the National Council on Aging's Board of Directors and as president and CEO of Greenlee Global, where she's continuing her incredible work addressing elder abuse and neglect. So I am going to come sit down next to Kathy, and I'm really excited to relive a little bit some incredible history. Okay, welcome. Can people hear us okay? Okay, great. Kathy, you made elder justice one of your top priorities when you became Assistant Secretary for Aging. There are so many issues that older adults face. Why did you pick that one?
I will tell you, I would like to do an acknowledgement. Before I do, I just want to acknowledge the importance of the Attorney General coming. Having Attorney General Garland here is a big deal. The very first actual convening, we announced it at the White House in June. The very first convening was in October 2012, and HHS Secretary Kathleen Sebelius was there. Attorney General Eric Holder was there in person. And the success of this council depends on that level of leadership at the federal level, so having the Attorney General here is huge. I also want to acknowledge Lance Robertson, who's sitting here on the first row, who succeeded me as Assistant Secretary for Aging. And when Lance and I had the traditional welcome to the job phone call, we talked about this council and the importance of this council and keeping it elevated at a high level within the federal agencies so that it can be successful. So I just want to give a shout out to Lance, who also has chaired this council. For me, yes, I came to Washington 15 years ago knowing I would work on this issue. There are, like reciting my whole life, there are two primary reasons. One, 40 years ago, which is kind of shocking to me, I was trained to be a volunteer at the domestic violence shelter in Lawrence, Kansas, and did about 5 years of work in the domestic violence field. So I have this passion for just the justice issues in general. From that, I really have a perspective of how far behind we've been in the elder justice work, how far behind elder justice is from child protective and child abuse work, domestic violence work, and sexual assault. I then started to see the issue of elder financial exploitation and elder abuse through nearly every job I had in state government, including my very first job as an Assistant Attorney General. So in 1992 or 93, I was in the Consumer Protection Division. I'm a lawyer. This is what I migrate to. I love being in this building. I had a paper sack full of mail delivered to me, and it was from Federal District Judge Richard Rogers in the District of Kansas. His aunt was being financially exploited through junk mail. This is before computers. This is when we were working with boiler rooms, selling hot lists, and I worked with many federal agencies as a young attorney on trying to tackle financial exploitation. And the issue of elder abuse then continued to show up in every job I had in the state.
So we're here celebrating the a decade-ish of EJCC. Kathy is the one who called me out on the 10-year anniversary.
It's 12, I was there.
Yeah, I know. But 12-year anniversary celebration doesn't sound as good, does it, y'all? So, as someone who myself has been in and out of government, I call myself an advocrat. I think you're one of those too. You know, everything has to do with inside, outside, partnerships, the role of government, and the role of advocates. And I just really want to call out in this room, because maybe people online can't see, the incredible advocates who I know have made Elder Justice Act and EJCC, what it is because of your advocacy. So can you tell us really how the EJCC came about, and please touch on both the incredible work and push that happened from the inside, but we want to really recognize the important work that happened on the outside to make this happen.
So I've been really honored to do this work. It's deeply meaningful to me, but I've always considered it a medley relay, and I'm either the second or the third leg. There are people who've been doing this work much longer than me, and I risk losing or not naming the right people, but I at least have to acknowledge M.T. Connolly and Laura Mosqueda, who are here, Sid Stahl and Edwin Walker. I am not the first generation of this work. I came to this building on the work that they had already done. When the Affordable Care Act passed, the Elder Justice Act was a part of it. The first time I heard Bob Lancato, the Elder Justice Coalition director, talk about it, I couldn't believe it had taken 10 years to get the Elder Justice Act passed. It made so much sense. It's like, why is this so hard? I hadn't been in Washington yet. It just made so much sense. And so really it was the work of other people that, that I built upon, and could then use, and did use, the Elder Justice Act itself as a bit of a roadmap for myself, a template for myself on, okay, well, this is what these smart, passionate advocates think we should do. Which pieces of this can I do? And standing up the Elder Justice Coordinating Council was one of those pieces. Building a national database for adult protective services was another. In early 2012 was an presidential election year. In early 2012, someone from the White House called me, and it was an election year. We'd like to do an event for seniors. How about we do an event on elder abuse? And they agreed. And I had been working with the White House for a year or so at that point, and they agreed to let us put together something on elder abuse. So for World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and Stephanie and Edwin walked this walk with me, June 14th, 2012, we did the first ever convening at the White House. Some of you all were there. I remember my closing remarks, because I said, I hope we looked at historically and considered that event epic, and I think it was. But the thing with the White House, any White House, is you get ready to do an event, they want to look good. So in the lead up to the event, we were able to secure things. It's like, let's stand up the Elder Justice Coordinating Council. So they announced that at that event. They also gave us, through AOA, we weren't ACL, well, maybe we're a month old as ACL. They gave us $6 million in innovation funding, and that money still exists. And we've had $6 million a year every year since then to help build the field. Those are the things that we were able to build because of a convening and the support of the White House.
So we're today kind of looking at where we came from and where we're going. So I have to ask you, really, what were your hopes as you were standing up EJCC and knowing where we are and what we've achieved over the last decade-ish? Where did your hopes match up with what we've been able to do?
There was a GAO report that was published right about the time I came to Washington that I carried around as a bit of a calling card, because I talked about elder abuse for years in every speech, so I would hold up this report. Greater federal leadership could improve our national response. It's like, what national response? But I could help with the federal leadership piece, that we needed the federal government to show up. The first time I met with state adult protective services directors was in California, which is a county-based system. So they have 58 APS programs, and I met with them, and I have lost all track of time at this point, but a very long time ago. But I was the first federal official that the state APS directors had ever met with. There was no involvement or role for the federal government. And it's not that the federal government had never done anything, but it was so diffuse and scattered that there was no core anchor support. So to me, the greatest thing the AJC has been able to do, is just elevate the issue, coordinate the issue, and something as basic as having the federal government of the United States show up. They had not shown up before.
So in my last question, we've clearly grown across the federal government. And again, when I look at the people we have many interagency working groups and councils, y'all really show up. I mean, really show up and roll up your sleeves. What do you think some of the important issues are for EJCC? What's your call to action for this group as we look forward to our second decade?
I've had some time to reflect on the last 10, 12 years of work, and I can see success in elevating profile, visibility, commitment, a broadened support of, increased support of a broad coalition. I think that the greatest work in front of us is to move from recognizing elder abuse to looking for it, that we need to screen for elder abuse. And when we find it, we need a response that's more robust than simply making a call to Adult Protective Services, that we must do maybe APS plus, that what each profession needs to develop is what I refer to as a standard of care. So if the banker sees it, calls APS if they're required to, what does the banker do? If a doctor sees it, calls APS, what does the doctor then do? What is the care that we should provide to individuals, regardless of profession? Until we know what professionals and the public, really, but especially professionals, should do themselves, we won't really get upstream to looking for it. And until we look for it and start to recognize the risk factors in front of us, I think we won't really get to prevention. And prevention is about mitigating risk and understanding what people are seeing in front of them as it develops.
Kathy, that's a big paradigm shift, but having worked with this group of colleagues for the last 3.5 years, I feel confident that we can start moving forward. Kathy, I just really want to thank you for coming in today. Kathy flew in just for this, in and out today. We all stand on your shoulders, and you stand on, as you recognized, and we will hear from in a moment, the shoulders of many before us. But I just want to thank you for your commitment, not just when you were in this role, but continuing to push us. It's good to have people from the outside holding us accountable, and it's really been just such an honor and pleasure for all of us to hear your reflections today. So if we could give Kathy a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm walking down for the next panel, so just give me 1 sec. Okay, where I feel most comfortable at the table with each of you as my colleagues. There really have been so many accomplishments since the inception of EJCC, and it's really my pleasure during the next segment of the meeting to provide you with more insight on what exactly the Elder Justice Coordinating Council has accomplished. We're going to start with my colleague, Stephanie Whittier-Eliason from the Administration for Community Living, who will provide a look into an effort that we're referring to as the EJCC Retrospective Project. Afterwards, we will have 4 of our founding EJCC member agencies share examples of significant achievements undertaken by the council member agencies. And we'll hear from Andy Mao from the Department of Justice, and our host, thank you. Carrie Benson, my colleague from the Administration for Community Living, Lois Greisman from the Federal Trade Commission, and Ben Belton from the Social Security Administration. So I am going to ask the tech team to lower the screen and ask Stephanie to come to the stage, I think, and then we'll have each of our panelists come up one by one, or come up now. Okay, our panelist plan B, please come up now. Okay, and thanks, Stephanie, for starting us off.
It's your choice. Either hand mics or coming up, whatever you prefer. No worries. Hi, good morning. Again, I'm Stephanie Whittier-Eliason, and I have the privilege to serve as Acting Director of ACL's Office of Elder Justice and Adult Protective Services. And the goal of this panel today is to celebrate our 10-ish years of Elder Justice Coordinating Council accomplishments. And I've been asked to start us off by sharing with you some findings from an ACL-funded project to identify and assess the work of the Elder Justice Coordinating Council in addressing elder maltreatment and promoting elder justice since the council's inception. And I'm the only one who's going to have slides. Kind of break things up a little bit. We knew that the council had achieved a lot in terms of action as well as collaboration, and we wanted to be able to quantify that. So last fall, ACL contracted with Social Policy Research Associates, or SPRA, to conduct a retrospective study of the EJCC's work since the inaugural meeting in 2012. So there were three components of this work. First, SPRA conducted a comprehensive inventory of the council's work, which involved essentially a broad web search and review of websites for information that was still currently and publicly available. It doesn't capture everything, but these are the resources that we could find on the website and that people were still using today and referencing today. We also analyzed the previous Elder Justice Coordinating Council reports to Congress and recent submissions for the next biennial report. And we gathered input from our federal partners and from external stakeholders on what they perceived as the most significant achievements of the council since its inception. And third, we posted a Federal Register notice in March of this year seeking comments both on how the council has been successful and, in addition to reflecting back, we used that opportunity and our interviews to learn from our stakeholders and partners what they considered the highest priorities for the council moving forward. And so while this council focuses on the retrospective, or excuse me, this panel, we will hear more about the future directions, that information that we gathered later in the program. Okay. So I'm going to give a very high-level summary of the major themes that we found through all of this work. And I don't think it would be a surprise to anyone to hear that the most notable accomplishment that we heard from every interview and from every public comment was that the Elder Justice Coordinating Council is most notable because it brings the federal agencies together on a regular basis. And there were a number of reasons why this mattered, and we'll go through them. One is that the council was credited with providing simply a structure and a venue that allowed for that communication on a regular basis among the federal agencies. And that enabled agencies to share their work with each other, learn about each other's work, and broadened the opportunities for coordination and collaboration. Bringing agencies together also created an environment where relationships were built, silos were broken down, and a cohesive body for elder justice in the federal government emerged. The Elder Justice Coordinating Council brought agencies together and raised the level of awareness of elder abuse and elder justice across federal agencies and up and down our federal hierarchy and our organizations. As more agencies and more levels of leaders are involved in the council and as awareness rises, so rises our accountability and collective action towards elder justice. Okay, but what did we actually count? Mind you, this was a pure count of non-duplicated items. So what does that mean? Well, here it says that there were over 800 agency resources and accomplishments, but that's not accurate. We have now counted over 930, and the number is going up. But what is this exactly? So these were the types of activities that were undertaken, that were discussed or posted on websites and in public reports, et cetera. So reports and blogs were big, public education was big, but why does that matter? Because that's an impression. Every time someone reads a press release, every time someone reads a blog, even if it's a 2-minute read, that is an opportunity for us in the federal government to have that touch with someone in the community, raise awareness, and raise a call to action. Now, when I said non-duplicated, what I meant was one of the things that we do in this council is collaborate and coordinate. We never do anything by ourselves, and which is a good thing, but those efforts are only counted once. So if you had 3 agencies working on something, it's not counted 3 times in our numbers. So these are unique items. Just highlighting, again, the breadth and the scope of the type of work that we have undertaken together collaboratively as the Elder Justice Coordinating Council. So I'm going to spend just a very few minutes running through ridiculously fast a number of examples of our agencies coordinating together since the inception. These are very high level, and we have our other panel members who can speak more in depth and put a real face to the work that we have done. Our first example, Social Security and AmeriCorps, they have partnered on trainings on fraud and scams to cross-train both of their staff as well as the people that they serve. HUD and Veterans Affairs, this may not seem like an Elder Justice Coordinating Council activity. However, when we are talking about issues such as housing security and benefit security, HUD and VA, for example, are also talking about ways to protect yourself from frauds and scams and ways to identify them. Members have partnered to educate the public, as we've heard, on investment fraud, such as this example between the SEC and the CFPB. And we have cross-posted and guest-authored blogs, press releases, and other alerts and notices across the federal agencies, and this is an example from Veterans Affairs and the United States Postal Inspection Service. We have worked together to help the public be money smart and recognize fraud and financial exploitation, in addition to how do we make smart choices. And the relationships that we've fostered have enabled us to respond quickly to new and emergent needs, such as when we came together to educate older adults about COVID-19 scams. And again, we leverage opportunities such as the retirement toolkit between Social Security, the Department of Labor, and HHS to incorporate information about staying safe from fraud and abuse. And these last 2 efforts I'm going to highlight truly exemplify the collaboration that was brought together by the Elder Justice Coordinating Council. For the Rural and Tribal Elder Justice Summit and Resource Guide that was hosted and coordinated by the Department of Justice, all of the Elder Justice Coordinating Council members at that time participated in this summit, contributed information, attended the summit, and spoke at the summit and shared information, and again, built relationships not just across the federal government, but between the federal government and state and local entities. We had AmeriCorps at the time. It was the Center for National Community Services. Yes, close enough. Okay. Department of Interior, the Federal Trade Commission, HHS, Securities and Exchange Commission, the United States Department of Agriculture, Social Security, the Postal Inspection Service, and Veteran Affairs, along with DOJ. And we used our opportunities when we came together as the council to help do planning with DOJ on this event. And the last one is a more recent example between FEMA and essentially everybody on the Elder Justice Coordinating Council. We do have webinars and presentations that we do jointly, but last year, FEMA identified older Americans' emergency preparedness as a focus area. And in addition to partnering with us at HHS, FEMA co-chaired the June 2023 meeting of the Elder Justice Coordinating Council to highlight the all-of-government approach to promoting elder justice and preventing, if we could, upfront, abuse, neglect, and exploitation of older adults as they prepare for disasters. And through the summer, we help disseminate public awareness materials and information. And that concludes my remarks, but please know that these few examples are just the tip of the iceberg of what the Elder Justice Coordinating Council has achieved. There is so much more that we could have shared about the numerous collaborations, endeavors, and projects the Coordinating Council members have undertaken. But we would be here too long, and I need to turn the mic over. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you so much for sharing all of that information. Don't turn around. We're going to turn over here. I'm doing a little both ways here. So I am really excited to kind of take what we've just shared on the partnership and dig a level deeper, as Stephanie just shared, and we will be hearing now from a subset of our member agencies on a few key achievements by the council. Andy Mao from DOJ will start us off. Andy?
Good morning. Before highlighting some of the department's accomplishments and achievements, I want to take a moment just to acknowledge the work of the Elder Justice Interagency Working Group. Notwithstanding the critical work that the EJC Notwithstanding the very lofty and important work that the EJCC does, the Interagency Working Group, which has been in existence even longer than the EJCC, are the staff-level group that supports the EJCC. They meet regularly. These are devoted, dedicated public servants that are passionate about what they do. And they are the sinews, they are the tissue that binds our work. We talk regularly about all these issues, and all of that eventually feeds into the great work of the EJCC. But without the staff-level interagency working group, very little could be accomplished. So we are grateful for many of them who are today with us, and those who couldn't make it. Shifting gears regarding the Department of Justice's work, the Justice Department has significantly expanded our footprint over the past decade. With an Elder Justice Coordinator in every single U.S. Attorney's Office, we've been able to aggressively attack elder fraud, especially transnational fraud schemes targeting older adults. We have supported older victims through the creation of the Elder Fraud Hotline, through the support and development and enhancement of multidisciplinary teams and elder justice coalitions, as well as the funding of programs and organizations that support direct services to older adults. Again, as the Attorney General mentioned, over the past 5 years, the department has funded over 5,000 organizations that provided direct services to over 1.5 million older victims. The department has continued to fund research, foundational research on elder abuse. It has tested and evaluated promising new tools, as well as identifying other tools that may be useful for elder justice professionals like EMT workers. The Department of Justice has convened national summits and conducted hundreds of trainings and public outreach events, not just to highlight the latest scam or fraud scheme, but also to talk about issues that are not often talked about. For example, highlighting the unique challenges that rural and tribal communities face in combating elder abuse, as well as, for example, the role that decision-making capacity of older adults plays in the criminal justice system, as well as in civil proceedings involving guardianship and conservatorships. However, what I'd like to do today in my brief minutes left is to highlight the work that we've done to support state and local law enforcement, who, along with APS, are the front line and are oftentimes the very first people that encounter older victims and their families. When we began this work early on, we talked to many, many law enforcement, and they told us about competing priorities, competing training obligations, as well as limited resources to develop specialized training on elder abuse. That is why, for over the past 10 years, the department has devoted significant resources and time to develop training, tools, and resources for state and local law enforcement to create a foundation for their own efforts. The department has developed investigative checklists that identify what police officers should look for, what photos they should take when they arrive on the scene. We have developed financial tools to help them identify and analyze financial documents to detect whether or not financial exploitation has taken place. We have helped train them on the partners in their neighborhoods that they should know: APS, Long-Term Care Ombudsman, AAA, Civil Legal Aid. We have done all of these things with the input from the field. We have developed tools and put them all on the department's Elder Justice website and on EAGLE, the Elder Abuse Guide for Law Enforcement, which we developed with the National Center on Elder Abuse. What I want to flag is that every single one of the resources that we've developed over the past 10 years has been based upon a need identified in the field for us. Then we built them all with input from subject matters and the law enforcement community to make sure that what we were developing was going to be usable by the field. All of the tools, all of the trainings that we've done, including, for example, most recently, for the first time we developed, with support from the FBI, a training on how to conduct forensically sound interviews of older adults. There have been trainings on how to do DV interviews, how to do child abuse interviews. There's never been anything on the unique characteristics and challenges of interviewing older adults, so we developed that, and that is being shared nationwide as well. I would also be remiss in not noting the fact that when the pandemic pretty much shut down all in-person training, the department invested in the development of online training modules on basic elder abuse as well as advanced detective training, all of which we are trying to make available to law enforcement academies around the country and to chiefs of police associations. All of these tools are available for free. All of these tools we got with input from the field, and all of them we also highlighted at the Elder Justice Law Enforcement Summit, which the Attorney General mentioned, where for the first time we had representatives from every single state, law enforcement organizations from every single state, plus the District of Columbia, in one place to talk for 2 days about elder abuse, about neglect, about financial exploitation, about best practices, and what tools were available for them to, again, set a baseline, set a foundation. The last thing I want to say is that none of what the department has accomplished could have been done without the support of the EJCC. The department collaborates regularly with every member on the EJCC, and we have benefited from it. From our collaborations with the U.S. Postal Inspection Service on our transnational elder fraud strike forces, to working with the Department of Agriculture and the SEC in hosting the Elder Fraud Summit, to just the daily conversations we have amongst one another, learning from each other and benefiting from the subject matter expertise of all the agencies. The Department of Justice could not have accomplished much of what we have done without their support, and we look forward to those collaborations for many years to come. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andy, and the passion and commitment that you bring to this work is just so evident. Next, I'm excited to call on my colleague, Carrie Benson from the Administration for Community Living, to share some of our accomplishments at HHS. Carrie?
Thank you, Allison. On behalf of the Administration for Community Living, it has been our privilege to be the lead agency coordinating the Elder Justice Coordinating Council since its inception. Through our combined efforts, we have touched millions of older adults, their families and caregivers and stakeholders through our public outreach and education efforts. And this is the first major accomplishment that I would like to share from our perspective at the Department of Health and Human Services. And at the core of this work together in the AGCC is the interagency working group. As Andy so aptly described the work of this group, I have been hearing about the power of this group and learning about it as I'm still relatively new to ACL, and really have been blown away by the stories that I have heard about what an instrumental role that the interagency working group has played, and I know will continue to play. And we at ACL are just so pleased to be a part of supporting that group and coordinating it, and really working so closely with all of you. Through the working group, our agencies have grown and learned together and provide key support to key agency leaders on the Coordinating Council. And the work of the Council could not be done without their dedication and support. And one of the most recent significant examples of this working group's impact and of the EJCC's impact, and a major accomplishment, as Allison said, for ACL, is the historic final rule for the Adult Protective Services, and that was just published on May 7th of this year. The issuance of the APS regulations fulfills the Council's third recommendation to Congress, which was to develop a national adult protective services system. And I want to acknowledge the critical role that our EJCC partners played in this huge accomplishment. The Elder Justice Coordinating Council partners provided input into the National Voluntary Consensus Guidelines for state APS systems that served as the foundation for the regulations. EJCC partners reviewed the proposed rule and made helpful suggestions that strengthen the final regulation and helps to bolster the relationships among state, federal, and local government to enable effective collaboration between APS and other sectors, really beginning to greatly achieve the goal of that APS Plus, as Kathy mentioned earlier, and those partnerships across state, federal, local government, and private sectors as well, including financial institutions, law enforcement, healthcare, social service providers, and emergency preparedness agencies. So now in place, the Adult Protective Services regulations will play a critical role in our work to advance equity, improving consistency across our APS systems so that all adults, regardless of where you live or who you are, can receive quality adult protective services as you need them. The Adult Protective Services regulations are important to this administration's commitment to the health and welfare of all people, regardless of where they live. These regulations will help ensure that older adults and adults with disabilities can live healthy and safe lives in the community, complementing other regulations that focus on the health and welfare of people in institutional settings. They advance our work related to social determinants of health, recognizing the important role APS systems play in connecting people experiencing or at risk of maltreatment to critical human services, long-term services and supports, housing, and other community resources. Finally, this administration has been committed to expanding access to home and community-based services. These APS regulations are an important component of this effort to ensure that people receiving home and community-based services are healthy and safe and do not experience maltreatment, abuse, or neglect. And we believe this is an incredibly important time for us to put out these regulations. For years, there's been a push from Congress, GAO, and all of you to create more federal oversight and consistency in adult protective services programs, and we are grateful to APS programs around the country and their partners and stakeholders, and of course, the Elder Justice Coordinating Council partners who are so instrumental in shaping the new regulations. And I look forward to continuing our all-of-government approach in this area and across the work of the EJCC. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. I'd like to now call on Lois Greisman from FTC.
Thank you, Allison, and good morning again. So among the many achievements of the EJCC over the past decade has been its key role as a building block and a force multiplier. Many of us have been able to amplify our impact by collaborating through EJCC, sharing knowledge, expertise, and of course, resources. For example, just 2 days from now, June 14th, many of our colleagues here are doing a coordinated education push focusing on government impersonation in honor of World Elder Abuse and Awareness Day. This consumer education campaign is tremendously important, particularly so given the rapid technological advancements in artificial intelligence, as the Attorney General referred to, and the scope of harm that results from impersonation scams. Impersonation scams, both government and business, are the #1 fraud consumers report to the FTC. In fact, last year, the FTC received more than 850,000 impersonation reports, with consumers reporting losses of over $2.7 billion. And just what we also know from those consumer reports is that older adults are significantly impacted by these scams. Government impersonation scams are particularly detrimental. Impersonating the government can be tacked onto any number of other scam types, and doing this lends legitimacy to whatever lies the scammer is peddling. Examples of government impersonation scams are not hard to come by. A text from your bank saying your savings and checking accounts have been compromised. You call the number listed, a fake bank rep tells you they've already been in touch with the FBI and they're going to transfer you to the field agent. The field agent then informs you, the fake field agent informs you just how serious the compromise is and tells you that moving your money is the only way to safeguard it, and the agent, of course, tells you exactly where to move your money to. Or, as Ben well knows, the call from the Social Security Administration saying your Social Security number has been used to open multiple credit card accounts associated with money laundering and possible terrorist activities. You need to provide lots of information to shut down those accounts. You can imagine the rest. The stories are heartbreaking, and the harm is enormous. FTC's data from last year shows that consumers lost $618 million to government impersonators. That trend has been on the rise year over year. Just the first quarter of 2024, consumers reported losing nearly $180 million to government impersonators. The overall median loss is $1,000. We know that with the force multiplier effect of EJCC, federal agencies will get the word out on how to identify and avoid impersonation scams. This coordinating campaign will reach that many more agencies, that many more consumers, because we've raised our voices together. And as a result, we know from research that has been shared among all EJCC members that if somebody knows about a particular type of scam, they are less likely to lose money to it. Awareness makes a critical difference. So we know the power of force multiplier also because we've seen it in effect in the distribution of the FTC's signature Pass It On education campaign. Pass It On provides older adults with tools to start conversations with family and friends and raise fraud awareness. It too celebrates its 10th birthday, actual 10th anniversary, having distributed more than 21 million pieces of education in both English and Spanish. Again, awareness is a critical factor in avoiding scams, and the partnerships emerging from the EJCC have expanded the reach of Pass It On. Finally, EJCC has served as a critical building block for the FTC's work under the Stop Senior Scams Act, which was mentioned by my colleague at Treasury, Ms. Lee. Through that act, we convened an advisory group that includes most of the members of EJCC. Building on the ideas, expertise, and partnerships we've developed here, the advisory group has published guiding principles for effective employee training programs to mitigate fraud. It has published best practices on how to reach and educate older adults, and it has also put out a lengthy review of existing research along with targeted research recommendations going forward. The advisory group also continues to examine technological tools that would mitigate fraud. In short, these are tangible and meaningful impacts, and they are a tribute to the EJCC. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then last but certainly not least, I'd like to call up Ben Belton from Social Security Administration to close out this panel.
Well, good morning again, everyone. It's so good to see you all. Allison, thank you so much for that kind introduction, and thank you for your leadership as our delegated chair. You do a phenomenal job, so just thank you so very much, Allison. I also want to thank everyone who's here today and everyone who is watching for everything that you do to keep older adults safe from abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation. When I think of the work you do, I think about this line that was in the proclamation for last year's World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. It says, wherever it occurs, it is antithetical to the basic American belief that every human being, regardless of age, deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. So I congratulate the EJCC for what, Allison, in my remarks it says 10 years, but I changed that to 12 years. 12 years of advancing the dignity and respect of older people in our country. And as I look out across the room, I see some very fierce advocates that I have worked with over the years. Edwin Walker, Sandy Markwood, I saw Chris Herman, Jen Goldberg, and I can't forget Kathy Greenlee. Kathy and I worked together in the Obama administration, and Kathy, I never say it publicly, but you are the reason why I became such a fierce advocate for elder justice. So thank you so very much for all you do. Let's give Kathy another hand, you all. So at the Social Security Administration, we've done quite a few things over the last 10 years in support of the EJCC. We have funded training through our Retirement and Disability Research Consortium to help us better understand people who are more susceptible to scams, but also to understand the scammers themselves and the tactics that they use. We have set up an intra-agency anti-scam work group or task force in partnership with RIG that works to develop and implement strategies to protect the public and our beneficiaries from scams and financial exploitation. We also have worked very collaboratively with all of our EJCC partners over the years. And one of the biggest successes, from my perspective, of the EJCC is that it brought all of us together, tore down the silos, and helped us to collaborate on solving some really complex and seemingly intractable issues. For us at SSA, that collaboration has been incredibly important in three major ways. Number one, in our work to fight scams. Number two, our ability to quickly share information about those scams and trends that we are seeing. And three, our ability to train our staff to better understand elder financial exploitation and become some of the response. So I know Lois talked a little bit about scams, but I did want to say that Social Security scams, if you may not know this, have become and have been the top government imposter scam reported to the FTC. And I think that's been since about 2018, if I'm correct. And unfortunately, older adults are disproportionately impacted, especially if you look at from the perspective of financial loss. So given the sheer scope and size of this problem, it was really incumbent on us to work with our EJCC partners to address this. A great example of that collaboration has been the launch of our annual Slam the Scam Day that you heard the Attorney General mention this morning. Every year during the month of March, during the FTC's Consumer Protection Week, we take a dedicated day in an intentional way to focus on slamming the scam. It started out as trying to protect the public and our beneficiaries from Social Security-related scams, but over the years it has grown to encompass all government imposter scams that impact our beneficiaries. The EJCC has also been very helpful to us as we've expanded our ability to quickly share information about new scams and trends that we are seeing. For example, just this last March, we alerted our EJCC partners of disturbing reports about a scam where scammers were pretending to be our IG agents, and they were showing up sometimes at people's homes requesting money in person. Now, that was extremely disturbing and adds an element of physical danger in addition to financial exploitation. So our EJCC partners helped us to get the word out, and Andy in particular, thank you for your help. Andy helped us to reach law enforcement around the country to alert them about the new scam. So we were not only able to quickly get that information out, we were also able to receive very valuable information and intel about that particular scam, about where it was happening in other places around the country. So thank you and DOJ so very much for that. Lastly, I would just mention a third area where our partnership with EJCC has been extremely helpful, and that is when it comes to training our staff about elder financial exploitation and how we can be a better part of the response. We worked with ACL in particular, and our thought leader was Hillary Dolan. I don't know if she's here today, but if you're watching, thank you so very much, Hillary. Hillary was really instrumental in helping us to develop elder financial exploitation training that was offered to all of our staff around the country. The training focused on recognizing red flags of elder financial exploitation, scammer and victim profiles, and our reporting responsibilities, especially for our staff that are around the country and are more public-facing. To date, almost 19,000 of our SSA employees have viewed the training around the country. It's been quite a success. And this month, we're building on that success by offering another training that will be launched soon, if it hasn't been already, on protecting at-risk adults from abuse and exploitation. It'll go beyond just older adults to other adult populations that are at risk of exploitation and abuse. So all in all, we are extremely grateful for all of the collaboration, excuse me, over the last 12 years. And look forward to the next 12 in the next decade. Thank you so very much, and happy, happy, happy anniversary.
Thank you so much to Ben and Andy and Carrie and Lois for really making real the partnerships and the examples. And I'd invite you to come back and join us at the table. I am very excited for our third and final panel because as you heard from each of the people here, the work of this council would not be possible without career federal leaders who work on this on a daily basis to translate the council's vision into reality. And it is truly their work that is the foundation for the representation of the people sitting around this table. So I am so excited that we now will have a panel to really recognize some of those incredible career leaders who set a vision for the work that we've done. It is with incredibly deep gratitude that I welcome the next panel of individuals who are truly, and I got to talk to them behind stage. I'll call them the bedrock. They're also kind of maybe the conspirators of helping us truly come up with a big and bold vision for elder justice. So first, I'd like to introduce our facilitator for this next session, Christina Rose, if you'd like to go up to the stage. Thank you. Chris was appointed by President Biden as the director of the Justice Department's Office for Victims of Crime, where she oversees a wide array of programs and services that support crime victims and survivors. For over 20 years, she's vigorously advocated on behalf of the victims in her various leadership roles at the Department and Federal Justice, and she has been a stalwart and vocal supporter of the department and the council's elder justice efforts. So now the conspirators. I am so excited to invite to the stage, truly, the leaders, the visionaries of this work. Dr. Sid Stahl, please come up, M.T. Connolly, and my former colleague and truly a mentor of mine, Edwin Walker. Please join us on the stage.
It is my great honor and privilege to introduce and moderate this panel today with these visionaries and thought leaders who helped to establish the Elder Justice Coordinating Council. And it's even more appropriate that I get to be here with you because it's the 40th anniversary of the Victims of Crime Act. And in 1982, when the President's Task Force report came out on victims of crime, they actually identified elder abuse as an issue deserving of attention and of specialized services, and had a number of recommendations. But you know, in a large bureaucracy like the federal government, it's often easier to stick with what is known than to try something brand new. But that is precisely what these trailblazers did. Each has made immeasurable contributions to the lives of older Americans and has enabled countless older adults to live with dignity and thrive in their homes, in institutions, and in communities. And each one of these honored individuals has extraordinary achievements and accomplishments, and it would be impossible to list all of them for you today. So I will provide some highlights for each of them in these brief introductions. So I'm going to start with Edwin Walker. Edwin Walker served until very recently as the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Aging in the Administration for Community Living at the Department of Health and Human Services, a position he held since 1992. Mr. Walker's career of domestic and global aging policy and program development spanned 40 years at the federal and state levels and focused on enhancing the health, independence, and the ability of older individuals to lead active lives in their communities. Among his many accomplishments in promoting elder justice, Mr. Walker oversaw the Office of Elder Justice and Adult Protective Services, which is housed within the Administration for Aging. That office was established in 2014 as the first federal home for adult protective services, and through Mr. Walker's leadership, has made monumental strides, including most recently the promulgation of the historic first ever federal regulation of APS and the first update in 30 years of federal regulations implementing the Older Americans Act. Last but not least, Mr. Walker has wisely advised the Elder Justice Coordinating Council since its inception and consistently advocated for greater coordination and an all-of-government approach to tackling elder abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation. Why don't we give him a hand for that? Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Sidney Stahl. Dr. Stahl served as the chief of the Individual Behavioral Processes Branch at the National Institute of Aging from 1996 until his retirement in 2012. Fortunately for the federal government, his arrival could not have been timelier. Elder justice activity was emerging throughout the federal government, and they desperately needed someone with a background in research. Dr. Stahl established the NIA's research programs on elder mistreatment, which funded developmental research applications aimed at providing a sound scientific basis for understanding, preventing, and treating elder mistreatment. Dr. Stahl directed the National Research Council's convening on elder abuse and neglect, which led to the seminal report, Elder Mistreatment, Abuse, Neglect, and Exploitation in an Aging America. It was the first comprehensive examination of what is empirically known about elder abuse. And in 2012, the Gerontological Society of America awarded Dr. Stahl the Donald P. Kent Award, the association's most prestigious award. It's given annually to a GSA member who best exemplifies the highest standards for professional leadership in gerontology through teaching, service, and interpretation of gerontology to the larger society. Even after Dr. Stahl supposedly retired, he continued consulting for the ACL and the Justice Department and advocating for more and better elder abuse research. It is largely due to Dr. Stahl's advocacy that elder abuse research was incorporated as one of the Council's 8 recommendations and why it remains a federal priority today. Let's give him a hand. And now I'd like to introduce M.T. Connolly, as she is well known, and she is a proud alumnus of the Department of Justice, where she served as a senior trial counsel in the civil fraud section, and then as the founder and first coordinator of the department's Elder Justice and Nursing Home Initiative. While at the department, she helped to develop novel theories of liability to investigate and pursue cases of abuse and neglect in nursing homes. While on a detail on the Hill, Ms. Connolly helped to draft the Elder Justice Act, the first piece of legislation to focus on elder abuse and that established the Elder Justice Coordinating Council. Following her time at the department, she was awarded the prestigious MacArthur Foundation Award for her work on elder justice, and last year she released her book entitled The Measure of Our Age: Navigating Care, Safety, Money, and Meaning in Later Life. Ms. Connolly continues to trailblaze to this day as she currently serves as the president of the RISE Collaborative, an exciting new organization focused on promoting the RISE model, a novel evidence-based approach to addressing elder abuse and self-neglect and advancing justice for older adults. There was one part of her bio that I loved especially, and I just wanted to say it here, that she works to make aging more joyful, gentle, and just. That is beautiful. So, although today we're focusing on their roles laying the foundation for the Coordinating Council, please thank me for being here, right? Please join me in thanking them for their unwavering commitment and contributions to enhancing the quality of life and independence and respect for all older Americans. Now, without further thanks for me, we will, with our remaining time, take advantage of this gathering and ask you a few questions so that you can help us understand what it was like before, during, and what your thoughts are for the future of elder justice. So set the stage for us in what I like to call the before times. What was it like before the Elder Justice Act came into being?
Well, I'll begin. And I want to say this is a wonderful event. Thank you so much. I'm so proud and pleased to be here with MT and Sid and with all of you. It's really been said already, but when we were preparing for this session, I said something and Sid says, don't go biblical on us, but in the beginning, there was nothing. there was an absolute void at the federal level. And as Kathy indicated, people assumed that there was a federal system because of the Child Protective Services system that was created in the mid-70s. But that was not the case. What we had in this country was by virtue of the good graces of states that had responded to the issues of elder abuse in their respective states, creating laws and guidelines and standards. But what that resulted in at the federal level was that we had no national system at all. We really had no uniformity because each state was different. There was no consistency in definitions or even approaches to addressing the issues of elder abuse. And as a result, there was an inability to determine the characteristics of who was being abused or the characteristics of the perpetrators, and therefore researchers who might have even been interested couldn't determine how best to come up with ideas of how to prevent elder abuse or what the best approaches would be to address the issues of elder abuse or how to prevent perpetrators from continuing to incur elder abuse. And I had come to the federal government from a state where I had served as the Adult Protective Services Director. And so I had a passion for this issue. And I have to say, I wish I had $1 for every time that Bill Benson and Kathleen Quinn came to me at the Administration on Aging advocating that AOA become the federal home for adult protective services. But they were right, and it was the right place and the right time for us to really become engaged in this. And what we had very little to work with, but we had a few resources and a little bit of information, and as a result, we completed what we refer to as an incidence study that had many, many holes in it and was not viewed as credible by the research and evaluation communities, but it did help raise awareness about the need to address this issue and the fact that the numbers were continuing to just rise. And what we learned in that process, I guess I'll say, you know, even negative press is good because we got a lot of attention. People were criticizing the methodology we used for this incidence study. But what it caused was us to realize that there were other people working in this area. We learned that there were a number of very passionate, very dedicated, well-intentioned renegades working unilaterally in their respective fields, in the fields of research, in the fields of data, in the fields of policy, all trying to do something, trying to improve the issues of elder abuse. And as we became aware of one another, we began working together and coordinating together. And I think eventually that became this interagency working group that Andy mentioned and others mentioned, and I'm sure MT will have more to say in terms of how we stepped off from that point.
Oh, thank you. Is my mic on? Yeah. Thank you, Edwin. And it's incredibly moving to see all of you out there and online. It's elder justice is an inside-outside game, and we couldn't do it without both and everyone in between. But I'd especially like to thank Andy Mao. You know, I started the thing, but you made it real. Thank you. And we started off with nursing homes. There were a series of hearings on the Hill about nursing home abuse and neglect. And so the then Clinton administration sort of was not looking so good because there were enormous problems. And so they started the nursing home initiative, both at HHS and DOJ, but it was in name only initially. And so it was first called the Nursing Home Initiative, and we were bringing cases of the type that Susan Lynch has been bringing for these many years. Thank you, Susan. And then it became clear that what happens in nursing homes is connected to what happens as we grow older. And in some senses, it's a reflection of how we feel about older people at a very deep level. And so we wanted here to expand the initiative from being the Nursing Home Initiative to being the Elder Justice Initiative. And so, as some of you who have been feds know, that there's an interregnum, like when the Clinton people were leaving, but before the Bush people had actually settled in, basically I changed the name from the Nursing Home Initiative to the Elder Justice Initiative. And Sid and I and other colleagues, Brent and others who are here today, started the Elder Justice Working Group because we figured at the staff level, we can talk to each other. And talking to each other is a really powerful thing because we can coordinate, we can share information, we can try and understand what the world looks like through the eyes of other people. And so as we did that, it was like, oh, look, there's a Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act that was enacted in 1974. There's the Violence Against Women Act that was enacted in 1994, but there's no Elder Justice Act. And there was an attempt in the 1980s, but that failed. And so, sort of in my infinite naivete, I thought, oh, yeah, that shouldn't really be a problem, and managed to get that detail that Chris mentioned. And we worked on the Elder Justice Act, and it seemed like kind of a no-brainer. We got a ton of input, some of it on the record, some of it perhaps off the record, not naming any names here, but people took real risks in trying to guide us, and for that I'm incredibly grateful too. And as my co-conspirator Lauren Fuller, who was then Senate staffer, said, we were basically picking outfits for a signing ceremony that never happened because the law languished and it languished and it languished, and it was finally enacted with the Affordable Care Act, but it got no money for 5 years, and then really just what are trifling funds in federal terms, and then a little bolus with COVID money, and then back to trifling sums. And so what you're seeing here today in the form of the Coordinating Council, in the form of what Kathy was talking about earlier, those $6 million in innovation grants. I mean, what has been accomplished has been by sheer dint of will by the people who have been the supporters of that law and of elder justice in general. And that is really incredible. And we need to do a whole lot better to make the aspirations of the law and the work real. And I guess I'll just, so I'll leave it there.
You'll leave it right at that? Yeah. Let me ask you a question, Dr. Stahl. How did the research become such a critical part of the government's work on elder abuse?
I think I can try and answer that. Let me give you a little bit of background in terms of my role in this thing. My wife was a child protective service worker. We had marvelous conversations about risk, about outcomes, about programs and so forth. And I began to realize that of all the years that I was a professor at Purdue, of all the research that I had done and all the stuff that I'd ever read, I don't remember seeing anything in my literature in medical sociology or social gerontology about elder abuse. So after I came to NIH, I asked my director if I could take a week and just to go into the library and to go online to figure out what was going on. And by noon on Monday, I was back in the office. Okay, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but there was basically nothing in the literature, in the scientific literature on elder abuse very few. There was one article, a marvelous article by Mark Lax, who found that if a person had contact with Adult Protective Services, they had an all-cause one-year mortality 3 times that of a matched population. I figured that being in contact with APS was not killing them. So there's something else had to be going on in the literature. So I asked our director if I could put out an RFA, a request for applications, for the first elder abuse initiative at NIA. And I was resoundingly rejected. But the consolation prize was the book, the study that Chris mentioned by the National Academy of Sciences, which was called Elder Mistreatment, Abuse, Neglect, and Exploitation in an Aging America. I'm going to give you 2 quotes from that I think is very telling about the state of the art in 2003. Quote, "There is no solid understanding of the nature, causes, and consequences of elder mistreatment, the effectiveness and cost of current interventions or measures that could successfully be taken to prevent it or to ameliorate its efforts." 2003. And again, later in the book, excuse me, "No efforts have been made to develop, implement, or evaluate interventions based on scientifically grounded hypotheses about the causes of elder mistreatment, and no systematic research has been conducted to measure and evaluate the effects of existing interventions." So several $100,000 later, and they came to the same conclusion that I had reached by noon on Monday 2 years earlier. Fortunately, at that point, Stephanie Whittier Eliason was assigned to our branch as, I think, a presidential management intern or something very close to that, and she helped me draft the first RFA for elder mistreatment. And the research at NIA continues today. I know there's been at least one other RFA that has been led in the community. At the same time, MT somehow found me, and we had many lunches downtown, and out of that came the idea of the Elder Justice Working Group, which Brent Cheverko also was heavily involved in AJS. Well, I tried to retire from NIH, and I was successfully retired for, I think, 2 days and a weekend before Edwin and Stephanie found me again and asked me to come to work for Justice on a part-time basis. And out of that, I helped develop the scientific portion of the first Elder Justice Coordinating Council meeting. I thought I was done, and then Andy found me. After I tried to that and worked on bringing some scientific knowledge in the literature to the Elder Justice Initiative, and especially their website. So in the beginning, there was zip. And I think that through the efforts of NIH, through the efforts of this coordinating council, I think we've come a remarkable distance. Does that sort of answer your question?
You did a wonderful job of answering my question. MT, it looked like you had something to say.
Yeah, I just want to talk about one of Sid's other roles. When I first became the coordinator and it became clear that the administration was going to end, I begged for money, and miraculously it materialized. And I had a budget to which I wanted to devote the lion's share to research because of that dearth of knowledge on which I had been educated. And I was increasingly realizing the importance of it. But of course, you know, I was a government lawyer. I didn't really know anything about research. And so we were working it with someone at NIJ, a contractor, bless him, but there wasn't really any infrastructure. It was sort of, you know, as my boss used to call it, one of your rogue operations. And so we were, it turns out the money doesn't just give itself away. You need to have somebody that is both a project officer, but also someone who's really looking at the science and making sure that the science is good. And we wanted to do rigorous science. So I would call up Sid and beg him to help with that again and again and again. And so most of the grants, like Laura Mosqueda's bruising study, were really incredible, groundbreaking pieces of work. But occasionally there were ones that caused a little bit of a stomach ache, and so I would call Sid. And it was before he knew how to block my calls. And so finally he, in exasperation, said, "Why do you always make me be your middle finger?" It's like, well, I'm well able to use my own, but I don't know how to use it in this context. But the other thing that's worth noting here that's really revealing is that when Sid retired in 2012, they had a lovely retirement party for him at NIH. And I went, and they talked about all of his many accomplishments, and not a single word was said about his contributions to the elder abuse field. And so finally, I was just sort of gobsmacked by that, and so I stood up and said that I felt compelled to tell them about his secret relationship with, and secret role in really helping lead the government effort on scientific progress in the elder justice field. So, Sid, we all owe you a huge debt of gratitude.
Thanks, MT. So we only have a minute left. I'm going to do a lightning round here. So really lightning round. And this is going to be on the piece of advice that you would most want to give folks that are working on elder justice now. Start it.
I would encourage people to continue on. Remember the initial strategy used by the Elder Justice Coalition and others as they were trying to get initial congressional support for the Elder Justice Act, which was to sort of put it in people's faces of, is anyone against protecting older people? It's a simple process. And I would offer this one bit of advice that I've always remembered, and I attribute it to Robin Stone when we were working on health reform with Hillary Clinton. And she says, the real recipe to successfully advancing public policy is the perfect blend of policy, practice, research, and politics. And I have found that to be very true. So continue to play an inside-outside game and continue to move forward.
Thank you. MT, you want to go next?
Sure. I think the most important thing we can do is to figure out whether what we're doing works in terms of the interventions, and using rigorous science to figure out what the impact is of our best intentions and to find effective evidence-based prevention measures for the public, for professionals, and for policymakers, so that we can put our resources into what we know has the greatest impact. I think the synergy of this council is incredibly important. Together we are more than the sum of our parts. And I think the third thing to remember is that in working on this stuff, and I was really struck by this in my writing, is that our negative views of aging, our shame and denial and fear and disgust, have a really insidious impact on ourselves and on the body politic, and time is sacred. We have the sacred gift of time, and that we really need to think of that as a sacred trust in terms of how we view aging, our own and along with others. And we can do better than we do now.
Thank you. And Dr. Stahl, I'm going to let you close it out here.
That's scary. I think multidisciplinary research and multidisciplinary work as represented by the council is utterly essential, and that what you've accomplished in the last 10-ish years has been remarkable because of that multidisciplinary work. I think, and I know that's tough to do work together, especially within government restrictions. And I'd like to also say, and with three other ideas that Kathy Greenlee mentioned and MT just mentioned, and that is prevention, prevention, prevention. And if you don't have that, we're going to be spinning our wheels for forever. So,
please join me in thanking this wonderful panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris and Sid and MT and Edwin. And I'll invite you back to sit down as we close out. Wow is all I can say. I was supposed to pull them off the stage like 10 minutes ago, but I just couldn't do it. Wow, we are all standing on the shoulders of giants. Giants with passion and commitment, vision, strategic, and I truly hope that everyone takes from what we've heard today a renewed commitment and passion, and really the idea that we can achieve so much more together. I was supposed to spend like 10 minutes talking about what's next. I think Stephanie covered some of that, and let me just say the call to action to the council and to the working group is, okay, we've spent the day patting ourselves on the back, we've done good, and as you've heard from everyone, we have a moment in time. We can't stand on our laurels, and we need to think big, and we need to think bold. So that's the charge, not just from me, but that we heard from really visionaries in the field. Again, I just want to thank everyone here today, both for the people who helped start this, the people who really created the vision, for all of the career and leaders, career and appointee leaders who have really, over the last decade, taken this nascent idea of working together can turn into a big thing. And really, when we hear the accomplishments from each of you and the things that we highlighted, it's incredible. And finally, just ending with we have a lot to do. We have the wind behind our back, that mix that Edwin was talking about. We have brilliant policy, we have programs. I think we might have the politics. It's always hard to read that, but as Edwin said, we just come in and say, who doesn't support protecting older adults? And I think we can get there. So I would just like to extend a huge thank you first to the ACL team who worked so hard over months and months and months to pull this together. I really want to thank the Department of Justice and Andy for hosting us today. This is just such an incredible place to celebrate. And I want to thank every one of you in this room and online for everything you have done, and importantly, what you will continue to do. So thank you for celebrating to us today, and happy 10th-ish anniversary to the HJCC. Thank you.